Hoftizer dairy farms employ manure storage and handling and milkhouse waste best management practices to prevent contamination of the Trent River, the main tributary to the Bay of Quinte.
We're very aware of the problems that pollution from our property can create. Our land is all tile drained, and a lot of these drains run almost directly into the river. So what flows out of these tile drains is going to have a very direct impact on the quality of the water that flows down the Trent River. There's a lot of recreational properties along the river, a lot of cottages. There's a park across the river from our one farm, and we do swim in the river at times, and some of our family members are at times in the summer are allergic to the water. We have allergic reactions, so we are very well aware of the problems that exist there. We've taken measures to try and reduce the pollution that comes from this farm. We've changed our manure system. There was a time when we spread the manure all year round, including the winter, and on the fields, and we've gotten away from that completely. Our manure comes out of the barn, and the solids are stored on a cement pad, but there's a culvert running from there to a liquid storage, just a lagoon, an earthen lagoon in the ground. So all the liquids run off the manure into that lagoon, and also our milkhouse wastes run into that lagoon as well. That lagoon is emptied once a year, and we get a custom operator in to do that for us, and that liquid is spread on the field. We try to make a point of scraping up our cement barnyards fairly regularly, especially if there's rain forecast. The pad where we store our solids, we only have room for about 3 months maximum, so every couple months we either spread it on the land or stockpile it in an area that we feel is suitable on a high area, so that we don't get too much runoff into the water courses. There is some financial benefits to it in that we make a little better use of the manure as a fertilizer, but it's mainly that we feel an obligation to do something about the pollution that's coming off of this farm, and we feel that there is a lot more that we can do than we are doing, and we do plan on making more changes over the years.
Livestock access control is a best management practice employed at Frank Mills Beef Cattle Farm north of Marmora.
If you give cattle direct access to the swamps, ponds and the creek, they foul it with manure and urine, and of course that flows down and eventually ends up in the Bay of Quinte. They also tend to erode the banks, creating a lot of mud that also flows into the creek. They'll kill the vegetation that is along the bank as constant trampling, and again that causes more erosion. The main goal that we had to do was keep the cattle out of the water supplies directly and let them feed from indirect sources. We installed a high tensile electric fence to keep the cattle out of the water. Because the areas we're keeping them out were some of them up to 1.5 miles away from an electricity source, we installed a solar powered fencer. We've installed a heated water supply, Ritchie fountain for the winter. The water's fed through the aquifer of the swamp. We've put in nose pumps in ponds so they can pump themselves water rather than going directly into the pond. We've also installed a windmill which will pump water into a holding tank which when full will drain back into the pond. So it keeps the water in the pond aerated and keeps the cattle out of it. Well, we wanted to make sure that we weren't polluting the water of the area. So it did take a fair bit of work to initially get the fencing set up and the pumping systems to get the water out of it. And it's an ongoing process maintaining it, but we found that it's been beneficial in the way we farm also, because it's allowed us to keep better control of our cattle on pasture. We have paddocks set up where we can keep them under control. They all respect the electric fences, and we generally know where our cattle are and where they're watering at all times. So I think, although the environmental issue was why we did it originally, knowing what we do now, we'd want to have this type of control over them, with or without the environmental issues.
Pollution control is often at the farmer's own expense. Participation in these best management practices and environmental programs demonstrates the farmer's high degree of personal commitment to stewardship of natural resources, above and beyond what most of us are ever asked to do.
Well, yeah, why is it important to keep the water clean? Well, the first reason, of course, is fairly simple and straightforward. We live here. We use that water.
Yeah, we feel quite strongly that it's our duty as to be good stewards of our creation and to see to it that we leave the land and also the river in the best condition possible for our children.
We look at it that we're sort of tenants of this land for however long we're here, and would like to leave everything in a better state than when we came here.
You do as much as you can, as much as is economically feasible, to better, or at least not degrade, the environment around you.
And there's a lot of things that can be done, and they don't all have to cost a lot of money. A lot of it is just common sense.
I think that all the little things that people are doing along the watershed are adding up to make a large difference in what you're seeing in water quality. I think for years we've seen water quality dropping, and that's starting to change. Now we're seeing the water quality is starting to improve slowly, and it's a step in the right direction.